Welcome to My Tesla Weekend GigaFactory construction update video for all three sites for the week ending December 3rd, 2020. Giga Shanghai. A lot of the dirt and debris is being cleared away. Some final landscaping is being put in. And if you look in the bottom, you will see Tesla Model Ys are out on the newly built test track down there, where verification, validation, and confirmation that everything is working right is done. They're also doing some work on the retention area for the river beside it, the drainage area, but we don't know what that's about or if it's even related to the factory. The center road is getting cleaned up and finalized, starting to look pretty good, pretty official. The gap between the Phase 3 buildings is getting cleaned up a bit. The construction to the north of Phase 2 is proceeding quite quickly, with quite a few footer areas completed already and more on the way. You can see from last week the number has more than doubled. Big shout out to Wuwa, who has been capturing the progress of these shots over the past 2 years, and also to Jason Yang, whose videos are every bit as good. Thank you guys for all the work you do. The new bridge coming into the property from the Phase 2 side is moving along quickly. A number of the pillars are in place, and it's going to be probably done, my guess would be, within a month. The steam you see at the bottom is from the heat transfer done to cool the Giga Press. That indicates that they are, in fact, pressing segments for the Model Y. A lot of areas are getting cleaned up, tidied up, readied for final sign-off and completion. If there are ways you guys would like me to do these videos differently, or additional insights you feel I could provide to further understanding, please let me know in the comments. More work in the area near the battery plant is continuing. One new thing you can see in the bottom is some new overhangs that have been built on the far side of the property, presumably for loading and unloading of things without them getting damp. And at the far end of the property, near the offices, you can see it looks like the temporary construction offices used by the contractors in containers are starting to be dismantled and moved off-site. There may be construction coming at this location. We don't know yet, but we're very excited to find out. Giga Berlin. Generally, you can see a lot of walls are being completed. This will allow interior work to commence at full speed. Loading docks are being built and completed. And a lot of the temporary scaffolding has been removed. That crane is no longer pointing to the north, but to the south. What could it mean? On the top, you can see a lot of equipment being installed on the roof, and materials, and in the bottom you can see it has already been put in place. Here you can see substantial work has been completed on the outside, on the expansion right here, and a new structure to the edge is being put in place, which you can see right here. Underneath where the cranes are, there's substantial footing work, a very big isolation foundation in place that spans basically the whole area. The main building is, for the workshop, is closing in, and the area separating them is also closing in with a lot of new materials and concrete pillars ready to be erected. Last week, there was mostly a handful of concrete pillars here. Now there are substantially more along the front of the property, and along the side of the property, work is being completed for the installation of loading docks. And at the bottom, you can see there's a lot more concrete in place in terms of pillars. Big shout out to all the Giga Berlin drone pilots, including TeslaKid, who was the first on site and one of the most ambitious of the bunch. Wolfpack Berlin, who does an amazing job. Tobias Lindh, who is also top notch. And Fly Brandenburg, who provides a pretty different experience. He only goes in on Sundays when the site is empty, and he flies very low and captures scenes that are not to be believed. He gets close enough to look in through the windows. Looking at the overview of the building, a lot more work is done. Just a lot. And the structure to the north end of the building is also north, south, the far end of the building is progressing quite quickly. Mad props to the construction crew in Berlin. They are really kicking some butt. In the bottom we can see a lot more roof work has been done and is ready for covering with the layers of insulation material, followed by water barriers and finishing material. Giga Texas. This is where the excitement always is these days, it seems. Last week we could see there was a handful of vertical pillars and areas being closed in, and this week you can see it has almost tripled in size. Each of these 35-foot by 35-foot squares is moving along. There's a whole new area of footers dug out, a lot more material on site, and it just looks like there's more equipment and more personnel. If you look at just the number of cars on site, it has increased substantially, though a week ago was pretty much Thanksgiving, so that's to be expected. There's a lot more rebar on site, readied for placement into the holes that have been dug out. The large pit has changed significantly, with almost all of the isolation foundation walls completed. Many new pillars, footer foundation pillars, completed, and it's basically ready to go. Much of it has already been backfilled for completion. The large concrete structure has grown from a handful of sticks to 15 vertical columns, completed roof work, significant number of cross members, and this area is ginormous. It's like 100 feet tall, and each of these squares is probably 50 by 50 or thereabouts. It's probably more like 60 by 40. Big shout out to the Quad Squad in Texas, Jeff Roberts, who has graciously allowed me to use his footage, Jack from Texas TerraFactory, Randy from TerraFactory Texas, and Joe Tegtmeyer, who often does deeper dives into the engineering and mechanical stuff. All of them do a fantastic job, so if you'd rather see 10 hours a week of just one factory, these are your go-to guys. You can see a lot of prefabricated concrete on site. You can also see 2 more of the giant concrete pillars awaiting installation. These are not brought in on 18-wheelers. If you count them, these are 42-wheelers. These are very much oversized vehicles designed to carry substantial weight. The amount of footer work on the west side here, where we're looking, has increased dramatically from a few dozen holes to well over 100. Many of them already complete. And you can see just the number of workers is insane. There's a ton of rebar over on the side, ready to be put in place, and it's just going gangabusters. A heavy rain last week created some setbacks in terms of the seeding of grass in retention areas, but it looks like they're working to correct it. There are still only 8 cranes on site. I expect that number will increase, if not next week, then certainly by the week after that, as steelwork accelerates to take the structure vertical. What am I missing or misunderstanding? Leave a comment below, and if you haven't already, give it a thumbs up if you appreciate the video, and subscribe if you're not already. It's the only way YouTube knows to share this with others who share the same fascination with this stuff as you and me. That's it for this week. Stay tuned, stay juicy, and I can't wait to hear from you guys.